So, this good doctor, right? Well, they've been trampled and have turned into the good manager for Tom. He gets that pricey floors are awesome, so he pitches in. And as a little extra, he pulls off a heist and takes a bank out of the game. His incredible intelligence and knack for solving problems really show that he's one of the smartest managers out there. Back in his school days, he came up with a plan that really tackled the Mexican oil spill crisis, catching the eye of the 8 biggest oil companies in the world. They really went all out to hire him, even before he graduated. They offered him important roles, company resources, and a hefty annual salary of $400,000. Even with all the amazing options on the table, Tom has turned down every single one of them. He ended up getting a job offer from Walter Moreland in Spain instead. This job is all about using his incredible memory to tackle a vault that was truly an engineering marvel, holding an item that Walter really wanted. For more than 80 years, nobody has managed to grind this one-of-a-kind vault. Walter brought Tom in to meet his team. So, Walter used to run a salary company, and just a few months back, he managed to restore some antiques from a locked ship in Spain. Among the standout pieces in that collection was a set of 3 rabbits that provided meaningful morning coordinates. So it turns out that the salary visit was a bit of a lottery, and the Spanish authorities managed to get back everything they found. The items are now surprisingly kept in a vault at a bank in Spain. Lorraine, who is Walter's adopted daughter, took charge of the team's impersonation. The team could use all the identities they needed for their infiltration missions. Klaus, the hacker, took care of all the team's hacking needs. James, who was Walter's go-to guy and had a background as a soldier, really stood out with his amazing combat skills on the team. Simon handled the team's logistics and equipment, and as long as there was cash available, he could snag whatever the team required. When Tom first showed up, the team ran into some trouble trying to hack into the banking system. They needed to add some code, but it was on its own, and time really mattered. Tom came up with a straightforward solution to tackle the problem. They might act like it was just an automated voicemail asking for the code from one of the bank's customers. Once the team gave Tom's idea a shot, they quickly found the code they needed. He got some praise for his clever ideas and headed over to his new apartment. On his second day with the team, Tom kicked off his investigation into the inner workings of the Bank of Spain, which happens to be the most densely built building on Earth. The bank has a bunch of sensors and cameras, and the guards are always ready to jump into action if anything happens. The main challenge the team is dealing with is the Spanish Army headquarters, which is just across the street from the bank. So, once the bank alarms are set up, 500 soldiers come in to take charge of the situation. The bank's security chief happens to be the former commander-in-chief of Spain's counterterrorism unit. Tom and Walter's team is really something else. They can handle any attack on the bank without breaking a sweat. The team really doesn't have much info about how the bank's vault is set up. So they need to do a scan to get more details about its internal structure. Right now, they realize that they need 2 keys and the fingerprint of the bank's chief security officer to get into the vault. The team kicks off an operation to get the 2 items and some information. Tom and Simon are taking on the roles of directors to get into the bank, while Lorraine is acting as a security guard who knows all about high-value paintings. In the rooms showcasing these paintings, you'll need the keys to unlock the vault that holds the secrets behind them. As Lorraine heads over to the paintings, she strolls alongside the director and asks him to hold her coffee for a moment while she chats with the bank manager. This provides him with the director's fingerprint, which the team requires to get into the vault. Klaus is helping Lorraine with the bank's camera in the room where the first painting is located. They shoot a video of Lorraine scanning the paintings, slowing it down to 10 times less than normal to make it seem like nothing out of the ordinary is going on. Lorraine finds the painting, gets her gear ready, and makes a copy of the key. So, just when things are getting tense, an unexpected visitor shows up and totally throws a wrench in the works. With only 20 seconds to go before their security hack wraps up, Lorraine really needs to be in the right spot on the video. It looks like the bank's director is standing in his way. Lorraine decides to snap a photo of the director as he's checking out the painting and asks him to turn around for the shot. Right at the last second, Lorraine steps in to shield the director from being caught on the security video just as the painting wraps up. As Lorraine starts her visit to find the second key, Tom runs into a bit of a problem. He's got to check out the painting structure by acting like a cleaner to get into the bank's lower floors. People think the painting is right under one of the meeting rooms on that level. So Tom decides to crawl under the table in the meeting room and sets off the magnetometer to start scanning. So a bunch of folks walks in for a meeting and ends up trapping Tom under the table. What a situation. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, the device goes haywire and shuts down at 96%. After some fiddling around, Tom manages to get the device up and running again, and they finally shut down the scan. So here's the deal. There's an alarm set up, and with the bank's security manager calling the shots, they end up locking down the whole place. It's tough for the troops as they get pushed back. So at that moment, Lorraine was just finishing up locking away the second key when the director showed up to grab her. Amid all the chaos, she misplaced the new key, and the device that held it just went to sleep. So in the end, the team figured that Lorraine would go get the key from Tom, and then he would take it back to the device. Tom dashed up to the third floor, grabbed the key, and put the device to sleep right as he got an alert that a guard was coming his way. He acted fast and made his way to the room just as the guard walked in. She asked him what he was doing there, and he unplugged his speakers, acting like he hadn't heard the alarm at all. She gave him the key back. After the operation wrapped up, Tom started taking a closer look at the internal structure of the guard. He found a part that the scan didn't really show well, and he figured it had water in it. The guard was designed based on the idea of a guard shell. If the guard switches while it's open, it'll shut and overflow with water. The team gets how the guard mechanism operates and needs to keep a steady guard balance going forward. Tom starts thinking about how to tackle this issue all day, every day. Simon and James stumbled upon something really interesting while they were checking out the spots under the guard. They cleared up Tom's doubts about a huge shell being under the guard, but to their chagrin, the current balance was 0. They found a big issue that might mess up their plans. The walls of the underground chamber were built with titanium-reinforced concrete and had a tough outer layer, which made finishing it almost impossible. Even with the toughest wall confinement, it would have taken 15 days, which is just too much time to waste. The team had a tight time frame for this heist, and the distance really made it tough to pull everything off. The team had to step back. Walter paused for a bit to think and then headed over to the team to check out the players. As he watched the crowd, it hit him that during the World Cup final, all the cameras on the bench would be aimed at the fans supporting the team. This discovery led us to rethink our plans. They could sneak into the bank from the roof instead of going through the underground chamber. Walter quickly shared the information with the team, and it really lifted everyone's spirits. Still, their success really depends on Tom and how well he can manage the roof's mechanisms. He puts in a lot of effort until he finally gets a plan to manage the roof's safety mechanism. He shows his solution by putting a cup of water on a scale, which makes the balance shift. He takes off the head, pours some liquid nitrogen onto the scale, and puts the head back on. This time, the balance is stuck because the scale is frozen. Tom shares that you can use the same idea when it comes to the big roof. So, the main challenge here is that they'll have to use quite a bit of liquid nitrogen to keep everything under control. The team kicked off their operation with a solid plan after the soccer match between Spain and the Netherlands got cancelled. They had a challenging window of just 105 minutes to keep up with the whole operation. First, they made their way up to the roof of the bank, popped open a glass window, and squeezed through the opening. So they navigated through 100 meters of pipes, until they finally got to the entrance of the roof chamber. They had to use a portable ladder to climb over. At last, they made it to the roof, and Klaus started his hacking to trim down the team. With the 2 keys and a fingerprint they had gotten earlier, they found themselves facing the daunting roof. Simon moved on to the next step, pouring liquid nitrogen onto the scale to kick off the liberation process. As he emptied the tanks, things started to happen, and the roof began to clear up. The team made their way up to the roof and started looking for the item inside. So the bank patrol team found the open roof and hurried over to check it out. Lorraine discovered the pipes, but what came next took her by surprise. James had intended to lose the team from the beginning as a part agent, and now he was looking to gain their trust. Lorraine had no option but to hand over the replaced pipes to James. But their time out was cut short when the liquid nitrogen freezing effect kicked in, triggering the roof's safety systems to activate. So there they were, Tom, Lorraine, and James, stuck up on the roof while the water started to rise around them. James, a former soldier, used his swimming skills to glide down the stairs and navigate through the replaced pipes with ease. When the safety chief calls for an emergency, his team jumps into action and heads up to the roof. Tom and Lorraine found themselves in a pretty risky situation, hanging out under that woven roof. Since he had no other choice, Tom came up with a plan to secure the roof system and kick off the drainage process. He told Simon to beef up the resistance on the roof, making it feel like it was really packed. Simon moved fast and got all the nitrogen tanks up on the roof, but it just wasn't enough. Right when he was on the verge of throwing in the towel, he took a look at his radio and thought, why not add the roof? It was pretty surprising, but that little radio did the trick. It stopped the water from coming in and kicked off the drainage process. The soldiers headed up to the roof, all set to rescue the planes. But when they opened the roof, they were taken aback to see that no one was inside. So Tom and Lorraine were all set to take off with the drain pipes to get up to the roof. They made it just in time, their legs all nice and warm. In a flash of inspiration, Lorraine recalled a room she had been to before to check out the paintings. She recalled that the director of the rooftop often kept the window in that room open. Tom and Lorraine walked into the room, not really expecting anything, and headed out to the rooftop through the open window. They ended up in the ceiling, took off their jackets, and mingled with everyone else in the crowd. The soldiers they were transporting got really close, almost too close for comfort. They got ready with care, so they took a moment to think it over. Spain took the win, and the crowd went wild with excitement. The noise and chaos made it tough for the soldiers to keep an eye on the transport, so Tom and Lorraine managed to slip away without anyone noticing. A few days later, James brought back the replaced paintings to his employee. But when they figure out the coordinates, they find out it points to the Eiffel Tower, which isn't where they're supposed to be. They finally started to get that Walter's team had split them up. So Lorraine ended up putting the paintings in the fireworks, which led to James dying because of the mix-up with the wrong paintings. Tom and his team are hanging out at a resort in France when they stumble upon the actual coordinates of the painting that was right next to it. They find out that the painting is currently kept at the Bank of England. The team is gearing up for another heist, excited to put their skills to the test once more.